Send me your money and your games. Let me just wipe my tears with my seal ducktails too. I also need a passenger mirror for an 85 Mustang. Will somebody Patreon me a sandwich? Ham and cheese. No mayo. Mustard, not mayo. What is going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Odds and Ends. I really sort of debated making this video, but I've been watching a lot of Radical Rick, and he's got some very strong opinions on this topic, as do some of my friends in the gaming community. You guys have some very strong opinions on e-begging, which is what we are talking about today. I mean, I guess I have some strong opinions about it too. But I think if we're going to talk about it, we better try to describe it. So what is e-begging? E-begging is really begging just online, but it's the practice of getting others to provide you with money, goods, services, or something else without the expectation of paying back or giving it back. So that's sort of my working description, I guess, my working definition of what an e-beggar is and what they do. We all know who some of these people are and what they do and some of their tactics on juicing their audience out of money, which I absolutely 100% don't agree with. But before we kind of talk about that, I want to talk about 4 specific types of e-beggars. So if you know some of these people, call them out in the comment section down below. So the first type of e-beggar that I want to talk about is I don't think there's any official names for any of these guys or gals, but this guy is that passive threatener, right? He's passively threatening. So his gimmick is that he asks for money without actually asking for any money. He'll say something like, hey, you know, you guys are really great, and my car broke down, and man, I don't have the money to pay for it, but you know, hey, there's a donation link down below if any of you guys feel compelled. Not really needed, but man, if I don't get my car fixed, I may have to shut down my YouTube channel forever. So what this guy is trying to do is he is trying to sort of make you feel guilty that you are not participating as much as you should in the channel. And man, you know, everybody hits a hard patch. Maybe I'll just donate to this guy. Meanwhile, as Radical Rick would suggest, they're sitting on thousands of dollars worth of games or equipment behind them that they could sell off or pawn off, you know, to make that money back. But instead, they're going to leech off of their audience and try and get you guys, the subscribers, to pay for their bills. The next type of e-beggar, in my opinion, I mean, they're all bad. You shouldn't be, you know, like I said, juicing your money or juicing your audience for money. But this guy, this is the aggressive threatener, not the passive threatener, the aggressive threatener. And this guy typically blames his audience for not giving more than they should. And they'll say things like, well, you know, if you guys want this channel to keep going, if you like this show that much, you know, you're the reason that you're not donating. You're the reason why I can't pay, you know, my house payment or my car payment, or I can't get this fixed or that fixed, or I can't travel to this convention that you want to see me at. You know, they're very aggressive and blunt about, it's almost like they're shaming their audience. Like, maybe, I mean, I do like watching this show. Maybe I'm not giving enough. Maybe I should just donate. You know, and their gimmick is nothing is their fault. It's all their audience's fault, and it's ridiculous. Nothing that happens to this channel or my personal finances is any of your fault. But they'll make it seem like you're not doing all you can to help that person out, and that's absolutely unacceptable, and it's freaking gross. The third type of e-beggar is a little bit more covert. He's a little bit more covert than the passive threatener. This is the guy that I call the standoffish beggar, right? He'll say stuff like this, somebody in his comment section, and he's waiting for stuff like this to happen. He's waiting, you know, say you're playing Spider-Man, right? And somebody will jump in the comment section and somebody, hey, why aren't you playing the new Resident Evil remake? And this person will get like completely offended, and they'll say, well, hey, You want me to play Resident Evil, you pay for a copy and send it to me, or send me a copy of that game and I'll play it. Typically you see this with like games and collectibles. They're not that standoffish about, you know, cash, but I'm sure that they would be more than happy to take cash so they can buy a game, you know, that they want somebody to live stream. Now this is where we start to get into a gray area where maybe sometimes it's not begging, and we'll get into that in just a minute. The fourth type of e-beggar is the person that I call the fund my project beggar. This person wants their audience to pay for their entire, whatever their project is. Whether it's they wanna buy a game store, they wanna make a movie, they wanna do whatever it is that they want to repaint my game room. You know, they want you to pay for it, and really their whole gimmick to get you to pay for it, they play the sympathy card. You know, they'll cry, they'll whine, they'll piss, they'll moan, and eventually what happens is they get people to fund their projects. Now, you're gonna say, what's the problem with helping somebody out? There's not a problem with helping somebody out, but it's sort of the, I all of a sudden need money and there's a convention coming up next month. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, there's some catastrophe in my life that I need you to help me with, but hey, next month for 4 days I'm gonna be at a convention, or you know, in 2 months I'm going on vacation. They always seem to conveniently come around to fund projects, need you to fund their projects for them, when they've got some other stuff to do that maybe they haven't had the foresight to save up for and you know, pay for themselves. Now, as I mentioned before, you know, I've been watching a lot of Radical Rick, and he's got some like far out there views, but he's also got some common sense views. Again, we're adults, and you know, we can have this conversation. It's not really a debate, but sometimes he'll throw stuff in there like, you know, if you've got ad revenue from Google and YouTube, then you shouldn't be asking your Patreon subscribers for money. Well, then the opposite of that is that I'll just get rid of my Google revenue and I'll just ask my Patreon subscribers for money. So sometimes it gets a little convoluted, and maybe I'm hearing, maybe I heard that wrong, or maybe I heard somebody else say that Radical Rick said that. I don't know. I'm not going to take the time to go look at the archives, but one of the things that we hit on is this idea of Patreon. So Patreon is a big deal, and we need to figure out what Patreon is. Again, I found this article from Media Kicks. It's called "What is Patreon and How Does It Work?" Boom. I will leave a link down below. But basically in here it says Patreon is a platform that allows fans or patrons to pay creators for their work. Many of these creators are influencers, photographers on Instagram, comedians on YouTube, podcasters that tweet, and artists that snap. Now, I don't have an Instagram or a Snapchat, so using Patreon, these creators establish perks and tiers for Patreons, offering exclusive content and access to their work in exchange for financial support. Again, I'll leave a link to this entire article about Patreon in the description below if you want to check it out. So on face value, I don't really think that Patreons are a bad thing if they're done the right way. Again, there's a tier system. There's sort of a social contract that I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, and however many dollars I give you fall in that tier, and I get whatever the perks are for being a Patreon subscriber, whether it's, you know, exclusive live streams or contests. We can argue tier systems all day. You know, at $50 you should get, you know, t-shirts and not, you know, one little keychain or something. We can argue that all day. We're just talking about the system of Patreon. But I think if you have a Patreon, and I know some of my friends that actually have Patreons on YouTube, if you want to try and make a go at it, make YouTube your living, listen, more power to you, man. If you can do that, if you can turn your passion into a job, that's awesome. But you need to kind of remember some things first. The first thing is, the reason that you probably have a Patreon is because you have a following on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch or wherever it is, right? But we'll talk about YouTube. So you had a following on YouTube, and you had enough people that bought into your nonsense that you were like, hey, I might be able to make a living at this, so I'm going to start a Patreon and I'm going to set up this tier system, which is awesome. But don't forget that the people on YouTube are the people that made you. There are some YouTubers out there that go, you know what? The ad revenue is really not even worth it on Google or whatever. They take such a high percentage. I'm strictly going to do Patreon, and all that content that I do is just going to be on Patreon, and basically saying stuff you to all of those people that either refuse to give or can't afford to give you money, you know, on your Patreon. So if you're gonna have a Patreon, again, I'm okay with that if the tiers are set up the correct way and you're not neglecting the audience that that gave you that Patreon essentially on YouTube. The second thing that I think is very important, you know, if you're gonna try and make YouTube a living, or you got a Patreon, but really this is for if you want to make Twitch or Twitch or YouTube or something like that, you're living your job. You know, again, if you can financially support your family, you know, pay your bills, take care of your kids, keep your phones on, all that stuff. Again, I don't have a problem with that, I guess, but don't take all of that money from your ad revenue and your Patreons and buy more crap that you don't need, to where when something happens, when your car breaks down or your hot water tank explodes, to where you don't have money to pay for it, and then you've got to come back and beg your subscribers to pay for it. Okay, if it's gonna be a job, if it's gonna be your life's work to be on YouTube, then treat it as such. Treat it with some respect. You know, take some of that money, put it away, invest it, pay your bills or whatever it is that you're supposed to do with it. Don't squander it, because there's only so many cookies in the cookie jar. There's only so many people that are going to subscribe to your Patreon. There's only so many people, you know, that are going to watch your YouTube videos. And quite honestly, you know, with some of the complaints that a lot of us have about YouTube, YouTube might not even be around in the next 5 or 10 years. And there may be something better than Patreon, and now your Patreon's worthless. But those again are arguments for different times. But really understand why you have a Patreon, because you had a following on YouTube, and those people helped get you to that level. And two, if you're one of the lucky people that can make a living doing YouTube videos, don't squander all your money away on useless crap. If you're gonna make it a job, treat it like a job, pay your bills, be responsible physically, you know, and treat your subscribers right. So with that said, let's talk about donations. Donations are a very slippery slope. There is an amount that we all have. You know, if you're live streaming, you know, if somebody wants to donate $2 or $3 to your live stream or whatever, man, I don't really have a problem with that, as long as it's unsolicited. Where you'll see some of these YouTubers, all of a sudden, again, conventions coming up, they got a vacation coming up, and all of a sudden they start live streaming every day for a couple months, or, you know, every Thursday, Friday for a couple months, or Friday, Saturday, because they know that they're going to get a couple hundred people in there, and those couple hundred people are going to donate 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, you know, $100. I saw somebody donate $500 one time. I'm not going to say which channel it was to, but I thought $500? That's like my wife and I, that's our car payments for the month. And somebody just donated, boom, which great, good for them, you know what I mean? But I could never accept something like that. Morally, I couldn't do it. Ethically, I couldn't do it. And most of you know what I do for a living. Some of you may not. But in my job, we are not allowed to take gratuities. So we have to, which state of Ohio is kind of, you know, about $20 is considered a gratuity. So I have to be very careful about what I take, how much I take, and who I take it from. You know, if somebody donates $2 or $3 on a live stream, that's no problem. But if somebody ever donated like $100, I actually couldn't accept that. I would have to send that back to them, because there would be a conflict of interest, you know, and legal stuff. I've also had to deal with, deal has a negative connotation, but I've had subscribers PM me on YouTube. You know, where you could PM people on YouTube, and they say, hey man, I got this game, I know you're looking for it, I got an extra copy, I want to send it to you. And they're nice games that I didn't have at the time, you know, games like maybe like a Super Metroid or something very nice for my PS2 collection. So my MO is I try and trade for it. If they don't have anything that fancies them, they don't want to trade, I ask them how much they want for it. And then usually I can't take it. You know, the last straw is, sorry man, hey, I appreciate it, you should take it, you know, sell it or trade it, and, you know, take your wife out to dinner or something. because again, I have to be very careful about what I take and who I take it from and how much I'm actually taking. I do think this is a little bit different when you have a circle of friends on YouTube and say like, oh hey, you know, Josh from Your Player 2 wanted this copy of Horizon Chase Turbo, so I drop it in the mail and I send it to him, although I'm donating it, I guess, to his channel or his game room, or gifting it. I don't really see a problem with that, because I know eventually somewhere down the road Josh is going to go, oh hey, CM was looking for that game, boom, he's going to package it up and send it right to me, or we'll work out a trade and he'll give me a good deal. So I don't really consider those types of things, you know, like if you're gifting someone that's in your circle, or you know, if you know somebody, you've known somebody on YouTube for years and you kind of gift them something, or you donate something to their collection. I don't really see that as a problem. Well, after all of that, e-begging is bad, okay? I don't know who all the big e-beggars are. You know, I don't watch every channel on YouTube. I know some of the channels that Radical Rick is talking about. He bashes on the Metal Jesus crew a lot. But I'll leave a link to his channel, you know, if you guys want to check that out. Let me know what some of your thoughts are on e-begging. This is an issue on YouTube. What do you think about Patreon? What do you think about donations? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like I said, I will try to reply to every one of you, even though sometimes that's not always the case. It's very difficult. But I will very, very much try. I'll be keeping my eyes on this video and your guys' comments, because I'm really interested in what you have to say. Do you think this is a huge problem? Is it just a select group of YouTubers that are doing it? I don't know. But we will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves.